This is my channel here that I share with all of you. It's our channel, really. It's not just mine, it's ours. Welcome to those of you that are new. Welcome back to those. I'm a little fruity right now. What is going on? All right. Well, I just feel a little bit goofy. To those of you that are returning, welcome back. And for those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. This is the October forecast for the sign of Leo for October of 2020. It is for those of you with Leo in your sun, moon, or rising, or if you have heavily placed planets in Leo, you sexy bitches. If you have heavily placed planets in Leo, you'd want to watch this too. So, and if you're, maybe you're enamored with a Leo, which they're very easy to get enamored with, glamored by, so to speak, you're certainly more than welcome to cross-watch this video. It's totally acceptable. You could share this video with your Leo friends, all your Leonine people, but this is for them. So if you like this video at the end, please hit the thumbs up or give it a like. Leave me a comment or a question if you feel so inclined. If you're watching over on YouTube, please feel free to go over to my business page on Facebook and follow me there, and vice versa. If you're watching on Facebook right now, please go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe over there. I do have a chat box up so people can chat both on YouTube and Facebook because it is a live video, but I do not have that window up on my screen because I'm trying to concentrate on the cards and the reading. So it's not that I'm ignoring you guys. I will read your comments later after I broadcast, but you guys can comment to each other and things like that, okay? Because I don't have enough subscribers on YouTube to be able to have everybody chat all in one room. But I'm working on it. I haven't given up yet. I've come close to giving up, but not yet. So let's see what my lovely Leos need to know for the month of October. Oh, I forgot that whole spiel. So this is a broad spectrum reading for many people. So if any of this doesn't make sense, that's completely acceptable and fine. Do not worry, nothing is wrong. You might just be working on something else during this month, or you could have heavily placed planets that take precedence over your Leonine tendencies. So there could be, that doesn't mean that anything is wrong. So do not worry or fret if this doesn't make sense to your situation or your life. Take what you need and kind of leave the rest, so to speak. What was the other thing I was going to say? And if you do decide, if you like the reading or you decide to make any decisions after having watched the reading about your life, that is your responsibility. So keeping that in mind, I tell people, always sort of trust your own intuition first and foremost, beyond what I say, right? Before what I say kind of thing. So this is here to help you, give you insight, support, that sort of a thing. But it's not necessarily meant to make the decisions for you. That's the fun part of you getting to live your life kind of thing. All right, so let's see. This first card is from the Witchwood Oracle. And this is a deck that I love, that I brought out because we're in October. And I chose this particular deck for the fire signs. This first card is supposed to represent as a signifier or kind of a, maybe a guidepost for the month of October for the Leos, or it could signify the theme. We'll see as the reading plays out, but let's see what comes up for my Leos. What is your guys' card for October? Oh, interesting. Ya rat, ya low down dirty rat. We got, sorry, I'm really in a mood. I'm kind of hot and a little sweaty. I might need to go put on the air conditioner in a minute. Okay. I was going to say that it wasn't Sag. What did I just do? Oh, Jesus, I'm a mess. It was Aries. All right. I did Aries reading just a few minutes ago, and they had snake. And it's interesting that you guys have rat, because snakes eat rats. But that's just neither here nor there. So, the rat. The first thing that I thought when I saw this card, and I'm just kind of going by what it sort of stirs up within me, is that the rat is a very industrious animal. Right? The rat is kind of like, he can make garbage into his home. And I mean that in a good way. I'm not trying to say, you know, you Leos, you like the finer things in life. Let's just say that. But rat is the one that kind of is the word industrious keeps coming to mind. Like this idea of being able to sort of not even make ends meet, but be like almost, what's the word? Like innovative in how you do things. Rats are survivors, right? They're able to take sort of garbage and turn them into, you know, wonderful living situations. So I kind of feel like there is this opportunity here to like make the most of something that might seem meager at first, right? And I'm not saying that it's going to be a garbage situation or anything is going to be bad, but I do sort of feel like the quick-wittedness of the rat, that sort of mouse-like mind, or that ability to think, is going to serve Leo really well. I feel like the energy will be high as I'm looking at this rat, in the sense that I feel like he's kind of going in the month of October. So I don't think that this will be like a restful month for the Leos. I kind of feel like you guys are going to be busy. Like when I look at this rat card, I feel like busy. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. So it's kind of got that feeling to it, but everything that you're doing is for like this, greater good, larger whole, bigger plan, that sort of a thing, right? And I feel like time management is going to be on your side. I don't know how rats are really with time management, but this is making me feel like industriousness, meticulousness, small details, all of those things are going to be, I feel like, to Leo's advantage this month. You guys will catch that stuff, you'll see it, you'll notice it, you'll work it quickly, efficiently. I get like an efficiency from this rat. I just feel like you guys are going to be busy, maybe with like details or planning. I don't know if anybody else is picking that up from this rat, or it gets where I'm going with this. If you leave me a comment, let me know if I'm making sense, because sometimes I feel like I do these videos and people are like, oh my god, he's a Fruit Loop. So that's rat for you. And for those of you that doesn't resonate for, say you're like, just like, say you are a Leo with huge Taurian planets and you just like are like, bitch, you rat, fast, fastidious, what are you talking about? I can barely get out of bed. Because that's like me, my lazy Pisces ass. Maybe you're just going to be a carrier of disease. You know, maybe that might be your meaning for rat this month. I'm just kidding. That maybe wasn't very funny. Not with COVID. Too soon. All right, let's see what's going on with my Leos. All right, let's get serious, people. Serious here. Okay, this first card represents the center, where you're going to be centered at most of the month, not the entire month. It kind of gives me an idea of kind of sort of the, you know, how that month might work for you, or what you might be dealing with as a major part of the month. It also gives me a little insight into the sort of, not only what are you dealing with now, but what you could be potentially creating for the future. Okay. Hey, Nine of Swords. Very similar to Aries reading. They have the Ten of Swords. Nine of Swords is the Nightmare card. Why are my fire signs all up in your head? It feels like you guys might be clearing out a lot of, you know, sort of misleading thoughts, anxieties, fears. That's certainly in the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords usually is like, you know, false worries, or lack of sleep, being up all night, worrying, stressing, aggravation, that sort of a thing. But what I feel like this is to me, I like that, and this was in somebody else's reading in this position, I feel like. What sign was it? Shoot, I can't remember. One of the other signs had this in the exact same position, because I see it again, I feel it again. I like that she is sort of reaching towards the future from this center, right? So, and like what I said with the rat, is that the rat is doing all the small details and the busy work this month, kind of setting and preparing things, right? And so to me, I feel like that's sort of also the nine, this mind, sorry, I'm tripping over my own tongue. The Nine of Swords is this sort of fast, rapid-fire thinking mind. Do you see how these swords are all going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down? That's the energy of the rat, right? To me, that's that fast-moving rat energy. And so it's kind of like there might be a little bit of anxiety this month, there might be a little bit of worry, but I think that I feel that there's a productiveness with the rat that is actually a good thing. I feel that we're channeling that energy as best we can towards the future. That's her reaching out into the future. I feel like we are working our way towards whatever the goal is for ourselves. Nines are about cycles of completion for ourselves and coming to endings within that. Some of my Leos could be releasing self-doubt, fear, worry around a particular thing and preparing themselves to move forward. But I don't get that so much with this. To me, this feels more like us picking through the small details, the little hindrances, the things that sort of stand in our way, any sort of self-doubt. The rat, to me, feels like he's not letting that happen, right? He's keeping real busy so we don't have to deal with the bigger, scarier shit, if that makes sense. And that might be the nightmare aspect of the Nine of Swords, is instead of looking at the big picture and getting totally overwhelmed, let's keep it like sort of focused on just what's right in front of us and get that done. Boom, wrap that task, move it on, and move to the next bit, move to the next bit, move to the next bit. And out of what would be, and this is maybe where the garbage comes in with the rat, what would be maybe a miserable situation or a nightmare, we are actually able to sort of transform it by taking it bit by bit or piece by piece. Does that make sense? Instead of getting overwhelmed by it as a whole, like this Nine of Swords would be signifying, right? I don't feel like you guys are fully overwhelmed, but I feel like if you don't maintain your focus, you could get overwhelmed. Does that make sense? The rat energy is to help us sort of move quickly. Like I almost feel like he's hard to catch, right? He's not. If we keep moving quickly and we stay focused on the small details and we address each thing and everything like intelligently and swiftly, it'll be okay. And we're going to be fine. And we can move towards the future and we can get through whatever sort of obstacles, challenges, whether they're our own in our own mind or, they're presented to us in the outside world. We're just going to kind of like, it's almost like, the rat in the maze. We're going to work our way through the little test and get past it. All right, so the next card is the Foundation. This tells me a little bit about what was going on in the past, why things are the way that they are. The memory of this card can also be sort of what everything is built upon. It can sort of hold things in place and also be kind of like the mitigating factor or the impetus for why we do what we do in the now. Oh, I love it. All right, so this is the Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune is a very slow-moving energy, which is interesting to me. And I feel like... Was this in somebody else's reading too? Oh my god. I know that the Wheel of Fortune came up in another reading. I'm trying to remember if it was the same as the Nine of Swords. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, so this Wheel of Fortune to me is about putting together a plan, a very big plan, about what it is that we want, what it is that we desire. Maybe like living in those dreams, living in those, what we might even thought back in the past would have been a fantasy. But to me, I feel like those fantasies are actually, like, there's a possibility of those things becoming real. That's sort of the nervousness that we see in the Nine of Swords in the center here. And that's this fastidiousness and this industriousness of the rat. It's like working, always working towards this goal, right? And the goal is we've got this wheel underneath all of it spinning, churning slowly. And it's going to give us what we focus on. That's kind of the key with the Wheel of Fortune is it's sort of like a constant ever spinning cycle of life that what we sort of place into it or what we choose to put our attention on and what we focus on is what we kind of get more back from it, right? Either positively or negatively. I don't feel like this has anything to do with negativity per se. I do feel like this wheel is churning underneath. I kind of feel like it's funny, you know how they have like a rat on a wheel? In like, when you see it in a cage and it's running on a wheel, like this is its wheel. Do you see that? Or am I just crazy? So to me, I feel like this wheel is sort of running underneath this desire, this goal of what it is that we want and how it is that we want it. But to me, I feel like October might be a very crucial month in how we hold that goal in our space, right? Are we holding that goal as possible? Or are we holding that goal as a big ball of worry and fear, right? That would be the Nine of Swords energy too. Or are we kind of just taking it piece by piece, chunk by chunk, and working our way through it to get to that goal? Because this Wheel of Fortune wants to give us the gift, right? This Wheel of Fortune, this desire that was born from the past, this possibility, this idea, whatever it was for you, that you were like, it might have even been in passing, right? Or in fact, like, seeming like a far off idea way back when, it's actually kind of possible now. And I think that as I'm looking at this, it sort of feels like to me, and this is interesting because Leo is usually known for having such a great, buoyant, wonderful, like optimistic, positive outlook. To me, I kind of feel compelled to say, Leo, don't fuck this one up. And that doesn't strike me as a normal Leo tendency, right? But with that Nine of Swords in the center, it feels like, are we getting in our own way in some way, shape, or form? Or is our own worry or anxiety, this could be anxiety about others, this could be anxiety about, like, say, something that feels like it's outside of our control. Like, if it was left to Leo, we could control. Like, how do I want to, I don't know that was very clear. If it was left to Leo, right, we only had to depend upon ourselves, we would be fine. But there might be something that is outside of ourselves or around us or some self-doubt that makes us think we may not be able to bring this one in, right? Or we might be feeling that fear. What I feel like these three cards are saying to me is that wheel is ever spinning. And the rat has the skill, the smarts, the intelligence, the swiftness, all of those aspects to make this happen. If we don't get too caught up in the worry, the fear, the possibilities of, what may or may not go right or go wrong, it will all go right if you just sort of keep focused and keep at it, right? Don't entertain the things that aren't even really real yet, is kind of the feeling, and that's sort of the nightmare aspect of that Nine of Swords. It's like this sort of false possibilities. You're like nightmares, right? They're not real. They're just possible. It's like, oh, what if this happened? Well, no, don't even entertain that what if. Just stay working. Be studious, or not studious, but industrious like the rat, and just keep moving. Keep it cute all through the month of October, and you'll be fine. All right, the next card is the Higher Self card. This tells me a bit about sort of what your higher self is doing in all of this, what it's working on or wants you to focus on during this time. So this is the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords is usually pictured as a woman trapped around a fence of 8 swords, and she has like a blindfold on, right? She can't necessarily see her way, but there's always like this sort of break in the swords. There is always a way out. When I look at this as being in the higher self position, let me just look at this for a minute. I kind of feel like there is some sort of memory that is haunting some of my Leos. Not just because of that Nine of Swords, but I kind of feel like this Eight of Swords is sort of challenging us to get over some sort of fear. Like our spirit wants us to face whatever this fear is. That's this Eight of Swords in the spirit space, right? Eight of Swords, she signifies, or the card normally signifies being trapped, uncertain, can't necessarily see your way, stuck. It can sometimes be stagnancy, that sort of thing, or being stagnant. But I don't feel that with the rat energy, right? I feel like, and even the Wheel of Fortune, although it moves slow, there's movement happening, there's been movement happening. So I don't feel like you guys feel stuck per se. But I do feel like this Eight of Swords in your spirit space says to me that there is this part of something that happened in the past, is the feeling that I'm getting. Some sort of mistake that was made, some sort of, opportunity that might have been screwed up, not necessarily by you, Leo, but just in general, or maybe by you or by somebody that, you're involved with. I'm not sure. But whatever that was, the memory of that is kind of like what could be creating some of this stress here, and what our spirit wants us to kind of release, let go, face, deal with, understand that that was in the past, and that can be left there. We're still moving forward. Stay positive. Keep working. Keep at it. And release this. Bring about that balance in the mind, right? Again, we have these sort of the swords, air, mental energy happening again, right? So there's something going on in the month of October where my Leos are kind of two in their heads a little bit, forgetting that there's opportunity everywhere and everything that you do, that this opportunity is like sort of wanting to come through to you as long as you allow for it. I think that you can, right? And I think that you will, but you also have to believe that the like sort of I get this feeling from this Eight of Swords that the same mistakes will not repeat themselves again, right? And these, I'll reiterate this too. The mistakes from the past may not even be your mistakes, right? Like in the sense that it might have been somebody else's mess up that caused whatever it is that's making you pause now, or making you fear like, oh, what if that happened again? I don't want to. I don't want that to happen again. It won't, but we also don't want to entertain it. And partially the reason why is because this Wheel of Fortune says to me, whatever we focus on or whatever we like entertain is kind of what we energize or what we sort of give power to, and then that comes back to us in this wheel, right? It spins around and comes back around, cyclical. So we don't like want to self-fulfill that prophecy in a way. So stay mindful of that, and there is a way out of this. That's the other thing too. With the Eight of Swords, there's always, even though she feels trapped, and I'm not saying Leos are trapped, what I'm saying is that if you guys are worried about something and feeling like, oh shit, I don't want that to happen again, or what if this happens, or I've had this experience that's like this, I don't want to go through that again. When all we focus on is I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, the universe doesn't hear that. The Wheel of Fortune doesn't hear that. All it hears is that, and it gives you more of the exact thing that we're trying to avoid. Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like this Eight of Swords card to me feels like this is an opportunity where our higher self is coming in and going, okay, like let's just like look at this for a minute. This is our chilled out Leo higher self. Barbara, I need you to calm the fuck down and just look at the fact that that happened 10 years ago when you were 10 years younger, you were stupider, and, you know, like, whatever. You know, like the rules are different. The rules are different. And so, or you've changed too, and I think that you need to give yourself that credit. Or acknowledge that there have been changes or differences, or that you're not going to necessarily walk into the exact same footsteps as you did once from the past. And so I think that this is challenging us to let that go, to sort of let that fence fall free and us like remove the blindfold and begin to move forward, right? But instead, we're allowing maybe right now or going into October and throughout parts of October, our anxieties and our fears of repeating history to hold us up. All right, so let's get into the outside influences. And if anybody out there is named Barbara, I wasn't talking specifically to you, I was just using your name because it's a great name. And I'm tired of hearing the name Karen, quite frankly. Let's get Barbara trending on Twitter, please. I'm kidding. All right, so these next two cards are the outside influences. These cards are things that are affecting us either positively or negatively around us in our environment during the month of October. They can be people, sometimes events, sometimes things more vague like belief systems or energies that are having an effect on us. So let's see what they are. Jesus, okay, Swords energy. So we have the Seven of Swords. This is usually like the liar, cheater, stealer card. Not fun. This might explain some of this Nine of Swords energy in the center, this worry. Usually the Seven of Swords can kind of be sort of like something's not completely clear, something's not being true, somebody's not being honest, something may not appear real or as it's being presented. When I look at this, I kind of feel like this could make sense as to why some of the anxiety that my Leos might be feeling. I want to say this though, this rat energy though, this rat card, he'll sniff out the truth. Even, like, it's funny to me, like, I feel like Leos might be feeling as though they're being lied to, or intuitively feel like, this doesn't feel above board, something, you know, maybe somebody's saying one thing and we're feeling another, right? Like what they're saying isn't necessarily what we're vibing on or we're feeling from them. The rat kind of is like intelligent enough to pick up on those more fine-tuned messages, right? And so Leo might be a little bit conflicted in the sense of like, do I trust what I'm feeling versus what they're saying? That sort of a thing. And that might be creating some of this angst that we see in this Nine of Swords in the center. Let me just look at this for a minute. Let me look at the next card. I just want to see. Oh shit, and then the Two of Swords. Okay, what the fuck, Leo? Generally, my Leo readings are really uppity, like not uppity, but like happy and like, and this is not happy. To me, this just feels like we are getting shit from people this month. And I don't mean that in such a bad way. I feel like it's all of this swords energy is all air energy, element, the intellect, that sort of thing. I will say this, y'all are a fire sign. Fire burns up air. Let's just say that really quick. So my Leos have the power and the strength to kind of burn through all of this stuff that we're working through this month in October, but it might be sort of a little bit of a challenge. The Two of Swords is always, to me, twos always represent sort of couplings, deepening of relationships in that way. The Two of Swords usually can represent like an impasse or a block. It can definitely represent as like sort of a no from the universe, right? That's these two swords crossing you, right? But when I look at this, I kind of feel like this being an outside influence coupled with the Seven of Swords over here is I feel like it might be a month where Leo's like sort of struggling to feel like the world is on their side, right? Like to me, it feels like the energy is off with that two and that seven on either side, right? To me, it feels like we might be getting, you know, even though Leos tend to be optimistic or what's the word, like dwell in possibility and try and be you know, extravagant in their ability to kind of create, you know, like you guys can be like sort of lavish characters. And I mean that in a good way. It feels to me like the outside environment is like, no, not today, Leo, right? The seven is like giving me mixed signals and the two is just a flat out no. Like it's like, no, not today. And it's like, I almost feel like the universe is sort of stopping you because it wants you to deal with that Eight of Swords, right? It wants you to deal with this issue that you have that isn't allowing you the forward movement, right? And it's funny because it's almost like, and maybe I'm not making sense here, but I'm going to just describe what I see. Maybe it's this Eight of Swords in our higher space, right? And this Nine of Swords that's within us that is creating this two and this Seven of Swords around us, right? Like if we're running too much anxiety, worry, fear, whatever, doubt, and our higher self is asking us to look at it or deal with it, bring it into balance, come into acceptance of it, maybe release ourselves from it. Maybe until we do that, we're going to get more like sort of mixed signals from the outside environment, blockages, things like that, that aren't allowing us to move forward. They're not allowing us to sort of flow forward. And the interesting thing about all of this is underneath all of this is this Wheel of Fortune, right? Which is this slow moving, churning wheel that wants us to move forward, that wants to give us the next part of the puzzle or the pie, but we have to be ready to receive it. And to me, with this 9 and this 8 in the center, right, it feels like there's some work, some mental inventory, some belief system stuff, some perception things, some doubt, some fear, some anxiety that needs to be addressed, that needs to be altered, shifted in some way. It's also, I like that. I feel like this rat is industrious, right? This rat is busy. He's busy, busy, busy. But I also think it's interesting that you guys get rat when you guys are a big cat, right? And so to me, it also kind of takes me to this place of, are you guys being prey to your own self this month? or your own mind. You know, rats can scurry away and have to hide too. And so we don't want to hide away from this, Leo, because this Wheel of Fortune is churning in the bottom, right? It's churning below us underneath this. There's something that we've got in the works here that we want, that we're trying to get to. I really believe we're trying to get to it, but this 2 and this 7 are blocking it. But I feel like they're showing up because this 8 and this 9 is what we're running through our space right now. And this doesn't necessarily have to be self-doubt, or this doesn't have to be like doubt in ourselves. Maybe we doubt our environment around us. Maybe we doubt like the people we're in partnership with, or our coworkers, or you know, maybe we question the motives of our family members, and so we don't feel like we can trust them. Whatever this is for you, Leo, it's not helping you. It's actually sort of maybe hindering you, and it's bringing about sort of almost more situations or interactions that produce more of that result, right? That's the 7 and the 2. It's like these kind of wonky vibes or interactions that are almost exacerbating the issue that we have in that 8 and 9, so that we face that. Because that 8 of Swords in our spirit space says that our spirit wants us to look at this. Where do we limit ourselves mentally? Where are we blocking ourselves? Where are we holding ourselves accountable for something from the past that maybe doesn't even really apply anymore today? But yet we continue to sort of maybe limit ourselves, or don't act in that way, or act on that thing, or act in that way because we burned ourselves in the past, or we made a mistake in the past, or somebody got the better of us way back when. You know, these are just examples that I'm throwing out there because it kind of feels like something in that realm for you. For each of you, it may be something slightly different. You'll have to figure that one out. But I feel like in the end, this Wheel of Fortune underneath says to me that the work that we're doing now is important, and there's a payoff, right? There's a like, I almost feel like the floodgates are going to open at some point, like where when you put the key in the lock and you click it and the door opens, it's going to come swinging open, and boom, that Wheel of Fortune just pours in everything that we kind of were like wanting or desiring. But we have to like sort of open up the dam in a way. All right, so this next card is what I call the potential outcomes card, and what I mean by this is it's not set in stone, right? If it's a negative card, we can use it as a warning to make choices and changes, but this is the way that the energy is going to naturally flow, and the month will end out for the majority of the Leos. If this is negative, we can use it, you know, as a warning, make choices, changes, and affect the outcome so it does not come to pass. But if it's a good card, we can take it heart in the fact that we're automatically like sort of naturally heading towards it and just allow it to sort of take place. We don't have to do much. So this is the Knight of Cups. It's looking like he's having a good time, huh? Let me see here. This makes me feel like, this Knight of Cups makes me feel like sort of, where is it that we're like holding ourselves back emotionally, maybe not saying what we want to say or what we think for fear of maybe like hurting others or that sort of a thing. The Knight of Cups to me can be an offering of love. In this deck in particular, this Harmonious Tarot, he always looks like he's drunk to me. I don't know why, but he always gives me these sort of like kind of goofy vibes. He's not as honorable as other Knights of Cups, so I don't always interpret him as a love vibe. To me, what I feel like this is in this card, in this reading, is it's sort of like my Leo's kind of moving on. This castle in the background here, to me, is like, you know, forward movement. He's heading in this direction to the future, but he's heading to something new, right? The Cups aspect of this is the element of the emotions, which makes me sort of feel like there might be an emotional overhaul or some sort of work, some sort of change, some sort of shift that needs to take place for my Leos emotionally, and that's sort of wrapped up in this 8 and 9, right? There might be our minds, our thoughts, our egos, whatever, are wrapped up in maybe, you know, painful past situations, painful mistakes of the past, things like that. I feel like the Knight of Cups is here to kind of help us, to protect us as we work through some of this emotional stuff throughout the month of October and we begin to release it. Because as we begin to release it, these outside influences that aren't like the best or the most positive start to also let up. We start to, maybe, if any of my Leos are being like their own worst critics right now, this is the month to kind of start to do the work, to kind of give yourself the like emotional break, to let yourself have the freedom to just be okay. Just like, mistakes are mistakes, they can be in the past. And I'm not talking about just Leo's mistakes, even the mistakes of others, we can somewhat forgive them. And that's sort of like the Knight of Cups energy to me too, is it's like through any kind of forgiveness that we can either find for ourselves or for those around us, for past wrongdoings or mishaps or whatever, when we come to those acceptances, right, we free ourselves up and we're able to move on to something new, to something better, to something more fulfilling. And it's definitely with this Wheel of Fortune as the sort of driving force underneath all of this, there is something so much very better out there for us. But we have to be willing to sort of kind of open ourselves up emotionally to accept it, or to accept ourselves so that we can receive it, is kind of the feeling that I get. Knights are always about sort of nobility, doing the right thing, and I don't think, I mean, to me, Leos are very noble too, right? I don't think that my Leos have been doing anything wrong per se, but I feel like this Knight of Cups to me speaks to the idea of doing, how do I want to put this, like doing the emotional work and like allowing yourself sort of the emotional grace, loving yourself, supporting yourself, protecting yourself as you kind of go through and let go of whatever some of this torturous swordsy energy is in your space, right? Whatever sort of critical thoughts you might have about yourself or others, whatever limiting thoughts you might have about yourself or situations or others or your life. This Knight of Swords is here to kind of like, towards the end, it's like towards the end of the month, we're kind of ready to release some of this stuff and give ourselves a break and support ourselves, protect ourselves, and move on to something new. So if you guys are having a little bit of a sort of a mentally rough, arduous time, feeling like, the month of October is not giving you a whole lot or working in your favor, I think that that's okay. Only from the standpoint that's what that 2 and that 7 would indicate. Now, for some of you Leos, this may not be the case. I don't want everybody to leave here and think like, oh God, October is going to be a shitty month. It's not that. It's like we're being challenged to look at, if anything, where do we limit ourselves in our thoughts? Where do we limit our experiences, our families, our loved ones, our interactions with people? Do we trust everybody? Do we have a trust issue? That could be some of this too. Whatever this is, our own higher self wants us to work on this and to free ourselves from it. Once we're free, and that's kind of like the Knight of Cups energy too, is he's sort of emotionally like freed himself up to move forward now. So like by month's end, I think that there is going to be a shift of some sort and an openness, right? And we will have done it for the right reasons. And we'll be able to sort of hopefully move on to something, a new way of being, a different way of interacting, a different way of perceiving things, so that we're able to receive the gifts that are in this Wheel of Fortune. Because that Wheel of Fortune, to me, the distinct impression I'm getting from it is that it doesn't just leave at the end of October. Like, it feels like it's kind of, like, I almost want to say that this doesn't strike me as a very Leo tendency, but it almost feels like you guys have maybe been, I don't know, hard on yourselves or down on yourselves for longer than you should have been. And so it's kind of time to let up and like sort of let some of these graces in, let some of these good things come back to you. It almost feels to me like maybe Leos have been putting on a very brave face, sort of doing the best that they can with what they've been given, but with what they've been given maybe of recent hasn't been a whole lot. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. If any of my Leos are out there watching, please leave me a comment after watching this and let me know if this resonates at all. I do think that things will shift and things will change. It might be a little bit uncomfortable throughout the month of October, but just allow it to be. If you find yourself coming up against walls or obstructions or people's poor behavior or choices, try not to let it get the best of you. Just like kind of roll with it. Remember that the idea of this Knight of Cups is sort of like we want to kind of, find forgiveness and release as quickly as possible so that we can continue to move on and through this period, right? Don't let it stop you. There's bigger and better things out there in that Wheel of Fortune coming. That is your forecast for October, guys. Tomorrow I will do the Earth signs. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I didn't have a chat window up, so I couldn't see if you guys are commenting right now. I'm not ignoring you, but please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends. Please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can watch my daily forecast over there. And I will see you guys next month. And I hope you guys all have it's so weird to say I hope you have a great October. I don't think it's going to be a bad October, don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to leave here going like, oh my god, that crazy dude said that I'm going to have a shitty October. It's not about that. It's sort of like the October is meeting us in a way that we are sort of perceiving ourselves, is kind of the feeling that I get from these cards. This 8 and 9 are almost inviting the 7 and 2 in. So the sooner we get through the 8 and 9, the sooner the 7 and 2 experiences or those energies coming at us from the outside world kind of subside and new things come. And something new will come. This Knight of Cups definitely speaks to that. And it's definitely something that's much more emotionally like fulfilling and optimal, and it's a blessing. All right, Leos, that's your reading. I love you guys. Take care, and I will see you guys next month. All right.